Man, I haven't seen a good movie in a while. I wonder if there's anything good on the streams. No, I don't want anything superhero or Star Wars or anything. That's a pass on Netflix. What I want is a good adventure movie. Some sweet action, fun characters, all around good time. Let me see what Hulu has. Oh, wait a minute. The Mummy. Yeah, alright. But isn't that movie like really old? I remember liking it as a kid, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Does it still hold up? I guess we're gonna have to find out to see if it's still got the sauce. Whoa. Oh yeah, The Mummy still slaps something fierce. They just don't make movies like this anymore. Such a rare breed. Off the top of my head, the movies that are in the same league are Indiana Jones
Perfect.
and Curse of the Black Pearl. Uncharted had the chance to run with the big dogs, but turned out to be a bit of a stinker.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
But there aren't movies like The Mummy being made today. Certainly not the Tom Cruise shit show. I haven't even seen that one yet, but I know of its reputation for being dog shit dookie bad. Might do a streaming discount bin if I come across it. But yeah, I'm not jonesing for it. What I am jonesing for is more Mummy 99. I grew up with this movie, and it's one of my all-time goats. Now critically, is it Citizen Kane? No. But I've enjoyed the shit out of this movie, and I still enjoy the shit out of this movie for over 20 years. The story, the music, the characters, the effects, the fun factor, it's got it all. It has the sauce. But what makes it one of my goats? The story is pretty straightforward, but it has layers to it that work so well together. The story and structure are extremely tight, with no extra bloat. The overall plot goes like this. In ancient Egypt, the high priest Imhotep is Shupin the pharaoh's mistress, Anaxunamun. Jesus God, try spelling that 5 times fast. So the pharaoh finds out, and yeah, he's obviously pissed. No one is allowed to touch her. The outdated notion of women being property and all that old-time patriarchy crap. The secret lovers whack the pharaoh, and the missus kills herself before the Magi? Magi? Oh, I see. The Magi. Whatever. Anyways, the missus kills herself before the pharaoh's bodyguards can reach her, knowing that Imhotep can bring her back to life. And he whisks off to the city of the dead, where he tries to raise her soul from the underworld, when the Magi are like, "That's a hard no for us, dog." They curse his ass and encase him alive, with flesh-eating scarabs for being a sketchy, murderous bastard. Amunatra, the city of the dead, goes through a time skip to the 1920s, where we see our hero, Rick O'Connell, is fighting the locals with his buddy Benny and the French Foreign Legion. Now Benny is a cowardly piece of shit, and he ditches, cause
You piece of shit.
the Legion is overrun, and pretty much everyone is killed but Rick. He runs into the city, and is protected by some Egyptian spirits, but as he wanders off into the desert, we see he was actually right above Imhotep. A few years later, Evie is introduced as a book-smart Egyptologist who is also being suppressed by the patriarchy and living in Cairo with her idiot brother Jonathan. They discover a key with a map to the city of the dead, our MacGuffin to get the story rolling. It's always a MacGuffin. This isn't the kind of movie that needs to be overly complicated. We just need to get into the story and our characters into the adventure. So Evie discovers Rick in a prison about to be hanged by this gross, creepy man.
What did he say?
He said he was just looking for a good time.
I would have loved to see that story.
Apparently, he had a very good time.
Anyways, she saves him, and hey, he cleans up nicely. Look at that. and they're off to find the city and all of its treasure with a nice boat ride. Where to? I freaking don't know. That's not important. Along the way, we meet an American rival treasure hunter gang who are also after the City of the Dead and all of the treasure and booty, including the hunter dad from Jumanji and...
Well, if it ain't my little buddy Benny.
Pulling up the rear are the Magi, who are trying to be sneaky. Woo! We got ourselves an Egyptian pirate. Look at the hook on that hand. That guy isn't messing around. While the Americans and Jonathan are playing cards, Rick's rolling out the armory. He's no idiot. See, he's an adventurer through and through, and knows there's some buku evil afoot out there. Evil! This dude is ready to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and there's no bubblegum. The boat sequence was always one of my favorites growing up. The true gunsling and adventure shootout, and to be honest, it's still pretty awesome all these years later. Americans. There's a gun battle, the boat is set on fire, and...
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Look out, faggot!
there's a fire!
This a messed up country.
Also, I must say, I love O'Connell's don't give a fuck attitude. Just tossing people into the river, ditching people on a fiery boat, sneaking kisses, sassing people along the way. This guy just oozes cool. I wanted to be like O'Connell so bad as a kid. A swashbuckling, gun-toting, clever-speaking, don't-give-a-fuck kind of adventurer. It's like some of my other man crushes. Leon Kennedy, Harrison Ford. Oh, but can I be with these guys when I grow up? So the gang is buying camels, getting pretty and chased out by women for being both creepy and gross. Just a quick venture through the desert before we get to Hamunaptra and the treasure. This is the short stretch of the movie where we skip time to get the story to the City of the Dead. The movie's got a limited runtime, and spending extra time riding around in the desert would just slow the pace, and we don't want that either. The pacing of this movie is actually pretty good. A short race to the city later, and we are at our destination, and interesting enough, we're not here for long.
They're led by a woman. What does a woman know?
Wow.
Jesus.
That's a real bastard thing to say, you
bastard.
Like all good adventure stories, there's gonna be booby traps.
That's what I said, Sam. Setting booby traps in case of anybody's following us.
Ooh, tough break, fellas. What's wild to me is that Jonathan's boredom is what ultimately starts the whole party. I will say this one little part, while minor, is a little flimsy. Imhotep would have stayed earthed if Jonathan had been doing literally anything else. I guess they could have still woken him up by reading the Book of the Dead, but he would have had a hard time getting anywhere.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Anyways, the sarcophagus is knocked loose, and the gross man gets greedy with flesh-eating scarabs, leading to a nice brain mush meal. I think the character is gross, and he's well acted, but his death is some gnarly shit. No thank you. The Magi decide to run everyone out of the neighborhood come nighttime, and tell everyone to get the fuck out or die. I'm like, come on, that's a little dramatic. Apparently it wasn't that dramatic because Evelyn gets shit-faced, and this leads to a romantic bonding moment. I want to pause here to talk about the romantic layer, which I think is handled pretty well. We got the manly man adventurer, and honestly, Evie's the pretty nerd. And they've been giving each other googly eyes ever since Rick got clean shaven. They can't help it. And those romantic feelings are gradually built upon throughout the movie, and it doesn't feel ham-fisted or too on the nose. It operates as a layer that by the end it wasn't a main drive or plot line, but was still kind of building up throughout the movie in the background. And it felt earned by the end. Alright, unpause. The Americans open a nice box with creepy ass vibes, giving us some exposition about a curse tied to the undead, along with this little gem.
Curse! Beware of the curse! Beware! Stupid, superstitious bastard.
That's one of my all-time favorite lines in line delivery. And at the same time, our heroes open the sarcophagus to find our titular mummy. Evelyn's been growing to find her sneaky side, and steals the Book of the Dead to read it, which ultimately summons the mummy. I like how the resurrection spell is on the very first page of the book. Now this middle part probably has the most exposition in the entire film, and it sets up the last half as well as the stakes of what happens when the mummy shows up to ruin everyone's day. Like right out of the gate, he's ripping out someone's eyes and tongue. Like, not fucking around. It's super gnarly, which leads to my next pause point. So this is an old school adventure movie through and through, but underneath is a layer of horror that's well executed, and it's mostly in the second act, from Hamunaptra all the way through the mummy's regeneration process, i.e., and the action takes a back seat to really give space for stronger storytelling and building the mystery of the mummy. The action takes a back seat to give space for slower storytelling and to build the mystery of the mummy. In its place are tightly filmed horror sequences and a good old fake-out moment. This elevates the menacing nature of the villain and the sheer power he has through the curse that was laid upon him. I guess the Egyptians' logic was, well, he was a very naughty boy in life, so let's make him an undead sandy Satan and undeath. Growing up, I remember the horror giving me the heebie-jeebies. But as an adult, it makes for great storytelling and the tension that builds up the legend of the mummy and the terror that he'll bring prior to showing him post-resurrection. But let's get back to the story. Woo! Imhotep is back, baby! After 3,000 years, he is both pissed and lonely horny for his old girlfriend. And who says love is dead? Wow, pun not intended. With his unholy rise comes the Egyptian plagues, and first on the menu is the swarm of locusts for some crowd control to get people running indoors. As the party is running scared, our nerdy American Burns has a mishap that will cost him dearly. Wow, Benny, you are still a piece of shit, leaving Burns behind. And at the same time, Imhotep is on a mission, and needs to get on the playing field with some eyes and tongue to up his speech skill. Lo and behold, he comes across the handicapped Burns, the first to get a taste of the cursed comeuppance.
Meanwhile,
the rest of the party are running wild and come across the horde of flesh-eating scarab. During the run, Evie falls through a trapdoor and pops into the dark sandy hole that Burns managed to stumble into. Her relief at finding a friendly face quickly turns into horror after she finds out his eyes have been sucked out, tongue taken, and Imhotep lurking around. Now that he's got some organs and can see, he's gonna double down on his main quest to both consummate the curse and resurrect his dead lady friend. So this movie's over 25 years old, and the effects still hold up. I've seen more recent movies with shittier effects, and one part of that equation is that the technology back then was nowhere near what it is today, and it required a finer attention to detail and not rushing the process. It was a new technology to be appreciated, but it wasn't supplanting the practical effects. You know, the real movie magic. And each stage of Imhotep's regeneration process still looks great effects-wise. Not something I can necessarily say about its successor and the Scorpion King disaster. But we'll talk about that later in another video. And the great effects don't even stop at Imhotep. There's the raining hellfire, the skeleton minions, and the iconic sand face sequence. Another old school example that style never trumps substance. But let's continue on to see why. Evie is trapped by the mummy, shit out of options, and she calls out to Burns for help. Like, right now, this is the last person you want helping you against super evil Sand Satan. Luckily for her, the party runs back the way they came in some Benny Hill type moment where the scarabs chase them upstairs, then chases the Americans downstairs. During the runaway, Rick manages to find Evie on the way out the door. Oh, sweet dear Jesus God. I hate this trope so much, and it is so common throughout movies. Like, I just don't get it. It's perfectly natural when you get spooked by someone or something and let out an audible noise. Lord knows I have. But what isn't natural is then proceeding for a few minutes to scream at whatever that was, and it screams back. What are we doing? Like, why is this here? This is one of the few rare exceptions that I don't hate. Here, we have the screaming at each other, but then Rick just buckshots the shit out of Imhotep, which obviously confuses him. And it's a fun, hilarious spin on a tiring trope. But let's keep going. After bailing on the sandy crap hole, the Magi confronts the party to call them jackasses.
Are you jackass?
And noting that they killed everyone because they unleashed the Sandy Satan. Rick's like, don't worry, dog, I got this. And Mr. Magi is like, nah, dog, you didn't. And the party shrugs and runs back to Cairo. Meanwhile, Imhotep finds our favorite rat bastard and decides to take him on as a henchman. What a nice match made in hell. Good for you, Benny. Armed with his very own creeping death, Imhotep follows the party to Cairo, where he starts his reign of terror, with flaming fireballs, eclipses.
The rivers and waters of Egypt ran red and were as blood.
What a lovely place to vacation. When can I go? While raining hellfire, Imhotep and Benny start to track the Americans and the good Egyptologist tour guide. Lucky for him, it's not too hard to find Burns and finish him off. While rushing to investigate, the party learns that Imhotep really doesn't like cats. Like, those precious fur balls really scared the sand out of him. But Imhotep still has a hard-on for Evie as his dead girlfriend, which is a little concerning to the party.
We are in serious trouble.
So a lot's happened over the last 20 minutes or so. So we need a little more info dump and exposition, so then we know what the party is up against. Enter the curator and Mr. Magi.
Question. Why doesn't he like cats?
They explain the cat thing as well as the sacrificial bit subplot. Something I really like about this movie is that it reminds the audience of the story, Imhotep's motivations, and the stakes of what happens when they don't defeat him. This was from 1999, mind you. And look, this is an art, not a science. But all these years later, it's finally an art that Netflix is starting to leverage because
people are on their phones while they're watching, you know what I mean?
But I think it can really help keep the story straight and all the details in check. And it's not so necessary for a straightforward movie, but for a movie that has a complicated plot or a lot of characters, it can be extremely helpful to keep things on track. The party regroups and puts Blondie and Armsling in charge of guarding Evie, while Rick and Jonathan track down Benny. Whoa.
That's some badass shit.
It's pretty badass.
Benny spills the beans on Imhotep's plan before there's blood-curdling scream from the street down below, giving Benny enough time to escape. Next up is the whacking of the Egyptologist in the street. That just leaves Blondie and Armsling. Armsling is fed up and goes for a drink, which Blondie wants a lot of bourbon.
Give me a glass of bourbon. All right. And a shot of bourbon. Yeah, okay. And a bourbon chaser. Yeah, I'll get you damn bourbon. Don't worry about the door.
Like nothing says guard duty to getting completely shit-faced. Great thinking, idiot. While Armsling is at the bar, Imhotep pops in to suck Blondie dry and sneak into Evie's room as Sand. This movie never ceases to be exciting and full of adventure. Sneaking into the door hole as Sand is so damn clever and creative, and it's a great little detail. And in the same scene, when Imhotep kisses Evie, his mouth starts reverting to this undead gross.
Hey! Get your ugly face off of her!
And it's another little detail that is both creepy and off-putting. And they both look really great all these years later. Rick, Jonathan, and Armsling bust in on the kissing creep to catch a predator.
You want to explain yourself? Grab with that towel, right?
And this time, they've come prepared.
Look at I got.
The party have had enough of Imhotep's shit and head to Evie's Egyptologist Museum for more answers. More importantly, the plan is to go back to the desert crap hole to find the Book of Life or whatever, and send Imhotep back from whence he came. I don't know if they call it that, they just keep calling it the Golden Book, which I don't know if it's ever been mentioned in the movie before this. Their exposition rendezvous is interrupted by Imhotep and the horde of locals under his mind control. While trying to find the location of the Gold Book, his horde storms the gates. So the party hitch a ride and the locals give chase through town. There's some rough driving, and they lose Armsling. Poor bastard. The party crashes the ride, and Evie goes with Imhotep and attempt to spare the rest of the party. But to no one's surprise, Imhotep sticks the locals on the party, which prompts a quick escape. They dip out through the sewers while the curator sacrifices himself to let them escape. Well, there's that subplot all tied up, and that the payoff was definitely there, as we're going into the third act. And that torch throw scene is just one of the many examples that makes Rick so freaking awesome. He's got so many badass moments. The torch throw, the opening shootout, rolling out the armory, the boat shootout, the chair throw, the mummy minion fight, and last but not least, the I don't give a fuck kiss when he's about to hang. The man just oozes badass swagger. He keeps it light, but knows when he needs to be serious. And there are really two characters that I think fit that mold in the same category. That's Indiana Jones and Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow. Now, there's a lot of other characters that try to fit into that crowd, but they just don't have it. They don't have the sauce. Rick, though, Rick has the sauce. So Imhotep's got the girl, and he's hoofing it back to the crap hole in the desert to bring back the girlfriend. Pretty straightforward, and Rick, Jonathan, and Mr. Medjai are on the mission to rescue her and kill the Sandman. Rick finds his old pilot buddy Winston getting shit-faced and opining that he wished he died in the war with his buddies. What a better pilot to go on a crazy mission. A quick sand tornado right away, and Imhotep is back at Hamunaptra, with Rick not far behind in a biplane. One of the genuinely funny moments is when they're flying and Rick is checking in with the guys, and while Jonathan is pissed off, Mr. Medjai is having the time of his life. That's one big ass grin. With this sequence, we have the iconic sand face in the sky, which is so cool and unique. It was so cool when this movie came out, and still has the cool factor after all these years. It's rather short though. And the plane is down.
What the fuck?
Winston dies as he wanted and sinks into the sand with the plane, leaving the fellas to finish the trip on foot. I love the casual reminder that shitbag sidekicks always get fucked up by the end of stories. It's a common trope, but I don't know of any other movie where it's actually pointed out through dialogue. You're gonna get it, Benny, you piece of shit. Rick and his buddies stumble on the mother lode, but are interrupted by Imhotep's undead homies, who really aren't that dangerous in my opinion, and the guys could have easily taken them, but alas, Mr. Medjai takes them on while Rick and Jonathan go to finish the fight. Bro, where the hell are you going? Wow, that is one dead-ass ugly broad. Hope she doesn't look like that when she's brought back, cause that would be a really gross bummer. The guys find the golden book and the showdown is set to kill or get killed. Imhotep has started the ritual and bring back the girlfriend's, I don't know, spirit or whatever back from the underworld. And yeah, she's still ugly as sin. While fighting some mummies, and more mummies, Jonathan reads from the book and makes Imhotep mortal. Bye bye Sandy Satan, back to the underworld, and that just leaves the meat bag left to take care of. And Imhotep dies so easily. It's ridiculous how weak the villain is once he loses his mojo. However, our heroes have saved the day, escaped the final countdown trap, and made a buttload of cash. Oh, and Benny probably has the worst fate of any character in the entire movie, being trapped in a caved-in desert crap hole with flesh-eating scarabs. That's that. Now this might be a bit of a hot take, but I only really have like 2 complaints with this movie. It's just so solid, from the characters and the plot and pacing all the way to the effects and the action. It's got a lot going on. One of the minor complaints would be the final showdown at the end though. Like, Imhotep is supposed to have all these powers and just be a badass, but he doesn't really do anything at the end. He raises a small horde of minions to keep Rick and our party busy, but then when he becomes mortal, he just dies super easy. Like, this could have been a lot harder of a boss battle. And the second major kind of complaint is Mr. Medjai, or Art of the Bay, as it happens to be. He just doesn't really do anything overly, useful in this movie. He narrates at the beginning and then kind of just pops up throughout. But if you were to take him out of the movie, nothing would really change. At the very end, he takes on the horde of mummies, to give Rick and Jonathan time to get to the final showdown. Where'd you go? What are you doing? We could have used you, buddy. But I guess he felt it was more prudent to just wait outside until the very end. He was just weak sauce. The movie, with both a mix of the historical and fantastical fiction, exudes love and care throughout the entire film. Everything in the production oozes an attention to detail, and it makes a lightning in the bottle adventure movie. And there's no area more evident than the music in this movie. Jerry Goldsmith's score is fucking fire. From the very start of the movie, it's on point, and easily one of the most memorable aspects of the entire film, especially that opening sequence. I haven't listened to his other soundtracks. I do remember Alien having an excellent score, but I'll have to check them out and see if they're just as banging and memorable. Now, it's no Oscar winner, but everyone here is acting their hearts out. Everyone perfectly brings their characters to life in incredible, believable ways. Brendan Fraser's swagger and scoundrel charms are on full display here, a role matched made in heaven. And I can never fault an artist for wanting to explore their acting range and challenging themselves. But that still doesn't mean I would say no to a handful of these movies. Arnold Vosloo is delightfully evil as Imhotep, taking great joys in terrorizing his victims before sucking them dry, or releasing the plagues of Egypt on people. Yet his character isn't even evil at the start of the movie. The entire thing happens because he couldn't keep it in his pants. And the ultimate goal is to raise his dead missus. What he did wasn't inherently evil. Well, he did whack the pharaoh. But that was after the pharaoh found out Anck-su-namun? Anck-su-namun? Anck-su-namun. We'll roll with that. After the pharaoh found out she was two-timing him.
And little did I know she was a two-timing, self-centered, manipulative bitch.
This is not going to...
And it was only after that was he super duty cursed into this evil with loads of power. So yeah, Vosloo gets to show Imhotep taking his powers out for a ride and having a damn good time doing it. And while this wasn't his first foray into Hollywood, that would be hard target, some Jean-Claude Van Damme schlock. But this was the movie that opened the door for him to do more Hollywood films and TV. What's wild to think about is he doesn't speak a single word of English in the entire film, and a lot of his character is conveyed through non-verbal acting, and that takes some serious acting chops. There are very few movies that live up to the legacy of The Mummy as a purebred adventure movie. Right off the top of my head, I can think of a few that fit into that mold, and that was going to be Curse of the Black Pearl, The Rundown, and maybe National Treasure. But it sits among the greats of Indiana Jones and Zorro as one of the biggest and the baddest adventure movies out there. And it's going to continue to be there for a long time. And this is one of my all-time greatest movies. It's an absolute favorite. And I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10. It still stands up after all these years, and it's going to continue to stand up for years to come.